We're now going to engage some questions related to human rights, discrimination, and legality of the Trident ID card system. And I'm going to call on KEMAR Stewart.
Good morning to all. I want to say how happy I am to be here this morning at this press conference to issue a few words on behalf of the people of Barbados as it relates to the digital ID system, which has a deadline of January 31st, 2024. Now, I want to start by taking a quote from the newly minted Minister of Science, Innovation and Technology, Ms. Marsha Cattle, on the floor of Parliament just this Tuesday. And the quote from the article featured in Barbados today, it says that the new Minister of Industry, Innovation and Science and Technology, Marsha Cattle, has urged Barbadians to put aside cynicism and be more confident in technological advances to benefit the nation in 2024, including digitized identification. But she acknowledged that the task of winning public support for the high-tech solutions may be an uphill battle. And to quote her, she said, "I realized that it will not be a simple question of just bringing effective technology. It has to be a conversation, not a fight, nor a quarrel. A decades-old laminated identification card system is now in its last week of validity to be replaced by a new ID card, which bears personal data or information. And the move has generated significant debate on privacy and security of government health information. She said that we need a unique identifier. Each one of us should obviously be a digital number, and it is one of the most important opportunities that her ministry needs to deliver for the people of Barbados. And she said that the idea is that once you present yourself to government as a client one time, that is the only time that you would have to make that presentation to the state. And again, she referenced what you call a unique identifier. Now, again, it will touch on the 31st of January, the deadline. The Trident ID will only be accepted as identification, and the ID will become mandatory in practice, even though not in law. So you have heard the Attorney General say that it's not mandatory because it cannot be legally mandatory. But there is soft coercion in terms of encouraging people to get it. If you set a deadline and you say to the general public who has a laminated card that that old ID will expire. So it's not legal or mandatory in law. However, the coercion makes it mandatory. In 2019, the Supreme Court of Jamaica found that Jamaica's national identification system was in violation of the Constitution of Jamaica. And rightfully so, and by unanimous decision, it was declared that the entire National Identification and Registration Act was void since the digital ID system went beyond identification of persons to a repository of biographical information that could potentially serve as digital surveillance. And if you can remember, social activist and attorney at law David Commission filed a case in court where the collection of biometric data from the airport of this country was illegal and unconstitutional. So we will ask him, along with the Minister of Science and Technology, Marsha Cattle, to clarify the collection of persons' biographical information on a singular card without the accurate or the adequate digital infrastructure to protect such a card. As was said by my colleagues earlier, so many government departments got hacked. QH got hacked, the NAS got hacked, the police service was hacked, the credit unions were hacked, the banking system in Barbados was hacked as well. So, as I was saying, the Jamaica ID system, like the Trident ID system in Barbados, consolidated identity and demographic information of persons in Jamaica and made it a criminal offense for persons not to register under the new law. much of what's happening in Barbados. So that Jamaica, the system surrounding the Trident ID system potentially creates good grounds for the violation of our constitutional rights as citizens of Barbados, given that the Barbados Identity Management Act renders the Barbadians stateless if you do not accept the digital ID, which is against our constitutional right because a digital ID or any type of identification does not render you a citizen of Barbados, and therefore the government will be overstepping its boundaries and will be liable to face court and legal action if they pursue with this bill at the end of the month. The questions that are posed here on behalf of the citizens of Barbados is, can the government provide clarification on the legal basis for requiring citizens to obtain the digital trading card in order to access government services? And how does this requirement align with the existing laws and constitutional rights pertaining to freedom of movement and access to public services? How will the government ensure that the transition to the Barbados digital ID card does not impact on vulnerable or marginalized groups, including the elderly, the disabled, and the socio-economically disadvantaged individuals who may not or who may encounter barriers in terms of obtaining the digital ID or who may just don't refuse to use it. What provisions are in place to ensure accessibility for illiterate people, people who can't read or write? What's the process in terms of engaging them? Again, people with disabilities, children. Uh, what is the process for children? Right? Children don't have the right, based off the Constitution of Barbados, to engage our system of government without parental consent. So what is the procedure for children engaging this ID system if they choose to do so? Right? Uh, Minority groups such as the Rastafari community. What steps are the government taking to ensure that persons of the Rastafari community who may not believe in the traditional system, what will happen to the Rastafari community? Will they be considered stateless as well in Barbados, as in according to the Barbados Identity Management Act? Uh, what features of the ID system will ensure that international human rights and constitutional standards are served in the interests of the various communities within Barbados? As the government conducted thorough assessments of the potential social and economic impacts of mandating the Trident ID card, including its effects on employment, privacy rights, and access to justice for individuals who may face challenges with the new identification system. So if you don't have a digital ID, you can't get a job. These questions need to be answered before we move ahead talking about a deadline at the end of January. Can the government provide assurance that the implementation of the Barbados credit card system complies with international standards of human rights, particularly the right to identify and to access essential services without discrimination? As explained by myself and my colleagues, this Barbados Identity Management Act clearly has several grounds of discrimination towards the people of this country. So is it meeting the international standards? We need answers uh, on that. I just wanted to end with a quote from the Australian biometricupdate.com. And it says here that the Australian digital ID bill draws feedback from finance, business, civil rights groups. As far as I know, there was no joint select committee. If you missed it, I apologize. But I saw no joint select committee open for interesting persons such as this group, the cyber security specialists from all over the world, even Nell Harper and other local Barbadians who want to have input on this bill. We had approximately 3 ministers of science and technology: Kim McConney, Davis Ishmael, and no Marshall Kelly. they put input in the bill, but one of the citizens of Barbados, where was the Joint Select Committee that we could come to Parliament, much like what they did with other bills, to offer representation directly from the public. It happened in Australia, right? So to read what happened here in Australia, it says that submissions from civil rights groups expressing concerns about privacy and how law enforcement could use biometric data to disadvantage its citizens were on the table. And that the bill was redrafted last year after advocates urged the government to consider stronger restrictions on law enforcement and their access to information to help build up trust. On the other hand, our Minister of Science and Technology is saying that if we go online and share data about ourselves with ease, what's the problem with government departments trading information? You clearly see the problem because the legal department under the Office of Attorney General, the police force, and other law enforcement entities can basically follow procedures to get access to your data. And it'll be right there online, and it creates these bottlenecks, these legal and constitutional bottlenecks. So I would therefore urge the government to take an example from what is happening in Australia, because Australia has the same digital ID bill on the table right now, and they're saying that they endorse the codification of a digital ID system, but the point of high-profile data breaches continue to be a problem. And if it happened, and it happened in Australia, what do you think is going to happen to little Barbados? So I will end off by saying that the 31st of January, uh, the government will have to push back that date. There are too many legal concerns hanging over the head of the government. And if the government goes ahead with this deadline, the government will indeed face court action. And the citizens of Barbados are ready to take the government to court if this bill goes ahead in its current structure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, KEMAR Stewart.